All right, good day, everybody, and welcome to Headline Hits with LW. It is Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. A few things in the headlines this morning that I caught that I thought was a little bit interesting. Here's one where I find people kind of on the fence about. Half the people want it, the other half the people don't. The Senate passes bill to make daylight savings time permanent. It failed in the 1970s. How do you guys feel about that? Do you guys like the fact that we spring ahead, spring forward in March and fall back in October, November, and change our times? The Senate passed a bill Tuesday by Senator Marco Rubio, a Republican from Florida, that would make daylight savings time, the DST, permanent across the nation. Though a similar policy failed in the 1970s when it was mandated by embattled President Richard M. Nixon. Um, so I don't like that word mandate, and that's because we've been forced somewhat by mandates in the last 2 years, and we don't like that. So, what are you guys' thoughts on that? The bill, which is the Sunshine Protection Act, would make summertime zones permanent while preserving state discretion. So it sounds like to me, as I'm reading down through this, that there are already 20 out of 48 states that observe the time change have passed proposals for year round daylight. The state of Massachusetts and Florida, which were represent and have already expressed support for switching to permanent daylight savings time. How do you guys feel about that? This is how I look at it, at least in the states that I live in here in the Northwest. I'm a little bit further north to toward the Canadian border in North Dakota and in Idaho. And I can tell you this, without changing back in the fall, I don't know. It just seems like I'd be in dark all the time or worse. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. It's like half the people want it and the other half the people don't want it, or and then the other half the people don't care. And maybe you're one of those. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there this morning that they're talking about making daylight savings permanent. And so that means come fall time, we wouldn't fall back. We'd keep the same time. Um, let's talk about the next headline hit here. Now, this is a growing problem. We've talked about it a couple times here on LWN. I know other channels are talking about it, and it's supply chain and it's supplies. The IOU 1 microchip, Ford to ship Explorer SUVs missing chips due to the shortage. So, what are they talking about? Well, we're talking about Taiwan and a few other places that manufacture these chips. A lot of these vehicles can't run without these chips, and these chips, they also operate other functions of a vehicle. Ford will reportedly soon begin shipping some Ford Explorers without the chips that control the rare air conditioning and heating controls, among other features not considered critical. Okay. So, and that's not a critical thing for me either. Not having controls to the heating and the cooling in the back seat of any of those SUVs. And it goes further to say here that the driver and the front will still be able to control those features from the front driver's panel, the dashboard. So, in my opinion, that'd be okay. I mean, it's still going to function. It's just not going to function like it's supposed to. So it goes further to say that they're hoping within the next year, if they do this, which do you think this is a bold move or a stupid move? I'd like to know your thoughts on that. Is this a bold move for Ford and other manufacturers to start putting out vehicles that aren't complete with recalls immediately as soon as you sign the dotted line? There'll be a recall, which means as soon as those chips come in, you will have to bring those vehicles back in so they can install those chips so that the other features of your vehicle will operate properly. Is that a bold move or is that a stupid move? Would you purchase a vehicle like that? Me personally, no. If I'm going to spend 40, 50, $60,000 on a vehicle, I want everything to work immediately, not a year from now. And that's the price of new vehicles nowadays, which is absolutely ridiculous. You can't even touch a vehicle anymore for probably under 40,000 unless you want to ride a bicycle. These vehicles are so overpriced and have so much technology in them, which creates more headaches when things don't go right, when they break and need replaced, and how expensive it becomes. The car market is, man, it's horrible. I don't like it. I like driving new vehicles. I like new technologies and features, but man, that price tag is very, very steep. All right, let's hit the next headline here, and let's talk about Daryl Issa, and he is a state representative from Florida. He says, "We are prepared, a legion of GOP watchdogs to hold the president accountable." Well, what's he talking about? Um, Orlando, Florida Representative Daryl Issa, which is a Republican who who was chairman of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform during former President Obama's scandal-ridden administration, told Breitbart News exclusively that Republicans are preparing for an oversight onslaught after the midterm elections, in which they will hold President Joe Biden accountable. So it goes on further to say that he was also involved in high profile battles, which included the Obama administration's IRS targeting scandal, the Operation Fast and Furious gun walking scandal, the Benghazi terrorist attack scandal, and more, and said that the 2022 midterm elections may present a few new faces that will join the ranks of the oversight veterans like himself and Representative Jim Jordan, a Republican out of Ohio, in the halls of Congress. Do you guys think that that's really going to happen? Do you guys think that that's something that we can look forward to? Is our elected officials holding this administration accountable for all the dumpster fire crap that we've been dealing with for the last 14 months? I don't know. I guess time will tell. All right, let's head on to the next headline here, and let's talk about Blinken. Russia's invasion will end with independent Ukraine and no Vladimir Putin. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said Tuesday on CNN's Situation Room that Russia's invasion of Ukraine will end with an independent Ukraine and no Vladimir Putin. Blinken goes on to say, quote, "I am confident of, first of all, there will be an independent Ukraine a lot longer than a Vladimir Putin. One way or another, Ukraine will be there, and at some point, Putin won't. The real question is how much death and destruction is brought by Russians' aggression in the meantime. That's what we are working as hard as we can to eliminate, to stop, and to put an end to this war of choice that Russia is committing. We're doing that through the support and providing the Ukraine every single day. We are doing that by the pressure we are executing against Russia every single day. And I hope that we can end this sooner than rather than later, so that the death and destruction doesn't continue. I can tell you how it will end with an independent Ukraine and somehow without Vladimir Putin," end quote. And that is from the Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on CNN's Situation Room. What are your thoughts on that? You think he's right? I don't know about that. We'll soon find out. Let's talk about the president of Ukraine. The president of Ukraine says, "No more NATO, question mark. Zelenskyy asks Congress for new, quote, 24-hour war response alliance." What the heck is he talking about? Ukrainian President Zelenskyy delivered a virtual address to the U.S. Congress on Wednesday morning. In addition to pleading for more military assistance against the Russian invasion and more sanctions against Russia, Zelenskyy suggested that NATO and other post-war institutions have become obsolete and recommended replacement with new alliances that can deter aggression and respond more effectively to humanitarian crises. Zelensky began by saying glory to the heroes and ended with glory to the Ukraine. He wore a military style outfit and switched to English near the end after delivering most of his brief address through translation. So here this guy is. He comes in front of our Congress begging for more support. And I'm telling you guys right now, I just feel that there is a something that tells me that we're going to get drug into this. I feel it. Like there's not going to take much that could happen across that border if Russia goes into any NATO country or shoots down a NATO plane or anything. I really feel like that could indicate and we would just be we be in a war. I mean, we've got over 12,000 troops over there in Europe right now, ready to go, saddled up, locked and loaded. It doesn't feel right for me. So the next headline is Zelensky softens army's slaughter like pigs threat to Russian soldiers. If you surrender, we'll treat you decently. This is coming from the president of the Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky urged Russian soldiers fighting against his country to surrender in remarks on Monday, promising that Ukraine would treat them decently. A message at odds with Ukraine's armed forces, declaring on Facebook that surrendering soldiers would be slaughtered like pigs. That's his quote, not mine. So he's putting stuff out there. Then he's kind of walking it back a little bit, saying, if you'll just surrender, we'll treat you decently. Who needs to surrender here? If Russia surrounded the Ukraine and surrounded the city, why would the Russian soldiers surrender? It just seems a little odd to me. I thought I would throw that out there at you guys. All right, final two headline hits that merge together. Let's talk about Russia sanctions against none other than Hunter Biden. Russia announced sanctions Tuesday on President Joe Biden and several other prominent Americans, including Biden's son, Hunter Biden, who is known in his international deal making and influence peddling in Ukraine, China, and elsewhere. The sanctions were described by Russian government as a response to similar sanctions by the Biden administration, which has applied sanctions since Russia invaded Ukraine. After removing some Donald Trump era sanctions last year, it goes on to say, here is the list of people that Russia is going to sanction. The list of U.S. citizens include in the stop list as follows: Joseph Robinette Biden is number one. Anthony John Blinken is number two. Lloyd James Austin, the third, is number three. Mark Alexander Milley. Robert Jeremy Sullivan, the National Security Advisor. William Joseph Burns, which is director of CIA, and none other than Jennifer Rhiannon Pulaski, Circleback, Peppermint Patty, whatever you want to call her, White House press secretary. Why she'd be making any trips over to Russia is confusing to me, but they're sanctioning her. Dilip Sieg, which is Deputy National Security Advisor. Samantha Jane Power, Administrator of the United States Agency of International Development. Robert Hunter Biden, son of U.S. President. Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton, former U.S. President candidate. Adwale, I can't even pronounce that last name, but the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Treasury. Why that person would have to be sanctioned, I'm confused on that one too. Roletta Joe Lewis, President and Chair of Board of Directors of Export-Import Bank of the United States. What do you guys think about that? Why are these people being sanctioned by Russia? Have you ever heard of such a thing? Have you ever heard of a country actually sanctioning private people and politicians? Have you? I'm gonna have to do some research on that because I don't know if that's ever been done before. I'm curious on that. I'm gonna have to reach out to a few people and ask them, has that ever been done? Have you ever heard of private companies such as KFC, A&W, Coca-Cola, Walmart sanctioning a country like they are doing to Russia right now? I don't know. Clinton is one of the people being sanctioned by Russia, and Clinton infamously benefited indirectly from Russian uh, Lazars as Secretary of State when her husband, former President Bill Clinton, received $500,000 speaking fee for a lecture in Moscow in 2010, just after a Russian company moved to control a U.S. uranium company. Imagine that. We all heard about that, that the Clintons sold us out to Russia, sold our uranium here in America to them. And the story goes on. Well, that is the headline hits for this Wednesday afternoon, folks. Thanks for joining us here at LWN. We appreciate it. And don't forget, I will be later this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Podbean. And then later this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube for LWN. So love you all. Have a great day and God bless.